fucking liar. T-minus
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11, 11.
taught me how to land on my feet. I have this way of finding trouble. It's never far. Wherever I go, take one step after another. You gotta move like a rolling stone. Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Well, I woke up this morning with the devil knocking on my door. Well, he came without warning with a deal, you know, I just couldn't ignore. I do believe, my pretty lady, that it's time for me to move along. Take one step after another. You gotta move like a rolling stone. Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah! Hey! You gotta move like a rolling stone. Oh yeah!
Alright, just realized what thing. We're ready to start now, but that was all the cacophony there. Oop, pushing buttons. Where am I? There I am. Hey everybody, welcome to this exciting edition of Yammering with the Masses, or whatever you want to call it. I am Big Ugly Jim, the host extraordinaire. Adjust my camera so that will work. There we go. How's everyone doing? Me, I'm doing just fine. I've had a little break, a little breaky break from the usual day-to-day stuff, which was nice. Back to work. I got a new couch. Check out the couch. Life is all right. And I had a great visit with the lady I've been seeing, my girlfriend, however you want to frame that. She's pretty fantastic, and I got to have a good visit with her and with her kids and with my kids. So it was pretty good. Pretty enjoyable little burst of time there. And now I'm back to let you know I can really shake 'em down. Do you love me? Ah, coffee is good. So yeah, life is all right. We're living the dream, and hopefully the dream is living us too. I don't know what that means. Sometimes I speak and then I go, eh? But either way, here we are doing our thing. It's Saturday. Why not? I think my toilet's running. Yeah. And one of my earphones is dead. That's the best news. So it's bizarre. Life is weird now with one earphone not working. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, the two things that are, sort of for surezies that I want to talk about is I want to talk about some relationship type stuff, and I want to talk about the Great Reset. As ever, both of these things are on my mind because of stuff I saw on the interwebs. So I watched a debate over the little break that I took. I watched many debates because that is what I do. But the one debate that I watched was I can't even think of who it was, but they were talking about the Great Reset and how the Great Reset, on the one side, the guy's like, the Great Reset is how they're going to reprogram our biology and we're going to, do all this stuff. And I was like, is it? I don't think it is. And on the other side, they were like, the Great Reset is, I don't know, like, I didn't really read anything about it, but it's probably cool, which also isn't entirely accurate. So I figured, I would bless you with the brilliance of my exciting brain power, and we would go through it together and talk a little bit about it. As far as the other topic, the whole question of the relationship stuff, where I'm coming from on that one is I have seen a lot of people, primarily Vosh, talking about how we need to actually care about what lonely white men are going through. And many people will react fairly negatively to this because, white males are not exactly like the disparaged class, and lonely white males, get the fuck over it. The rest of the world is also the same. Not that it's only white people, but when they grab a gun, it's often the white folk, but not exclusively. But there is something to be said about the fact that there's some stuff. There's some stuff there. People who are maybe not doing great. I'm gonna check one thing. I can see if I can get more out of my mic. Blah, 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 blah. That seems to be a little bit better. Yeah, we'll go with that. All right. Anyway, so I don't disagree with the philosophy that we need to care about these things, even though it seems patently ridiculous to have to care about, some sad boy who is like, why can't girls love me? And they have the same bullshit pat answers and stuff about, women only dig assholes and things like that. The fact is that we should be caring about it because if left to their own devices, those kids grow up to be incels and Nazis and MGTOWs and all sorts of bad stuff. The problem, as I see it, is that's a major part of the pipeline of how people get into right-wing content. You follow a guy like Andrew Tate, recently fallen from grace. Tee-hee. But Andrew Tate will be there for you and tell you that, the things that you want to hear about how women's be cray cray or whatever the fuck Andrew Tate says, like I watch his shit. And I think we need to have a countering voice. So that's kind of the thinking that I have there. And I want to talk about relationships and things, but I want to do it from a perspective of, what do we want in the world, and what kind of people do we want to be, and how do we bring that into relationships and stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. First things first, though. I was watching a debate earlier today, and it was just like clips of a debate someone was having, and the person on the right-hand side of the debate kept using the word pair bond. And I have some advice for you. If someone says that it is important for pair bonding, don't listen to that person unless they are actually a scientist of some description working. Pardon me. Unless they are like a scientist or sociologist or something working in that sphere, then the use of the word pair bond is basically like saying, I'm a snotty person who doesn't understand the world. Pair bonding is an important aspect of animal existence. And I don't think, or at least some animals, lots of species don't pair bond, but those that do, cool, right on, way to go. Have your pair and bond with it too. That's cool. But like for the rest of us, some of us don't really pair bond, and some of us do, or have multiple pair bonds or something like it, and it doesn't implicitly have value to go one way or the other. And that's the thing that I get annoyed about, because what they do is they imply that pair bonding is sacred, and that's why the Bible, God told us to pair bond. You know me, I'm always talking about how we're a social species, and social species, pair bonding is not uncommon in social species. Neither is other relationship organization structures, but it is certainly not the only one, nor is it the right one. It is a one. And I feel like we kind of give credence without any reason to. But Jim, one man and one woman, aka pair bond, is natural and good, and God loves you. Yes, God does not love me. I see the flaw in your argument already. If God loved me, I'd be even prettier. But you're absolutely right. The Bible is very clear on the subject of one man and one woman. In the part in, oh wait, no, it's not. No, it's not. The Bible is very unclear on what a good Christian marriage is, because people have all kinds of marriage. Not only that, it's not like, this is something that pisses me off, because another debate I saw recently, they were talking about, yeah, God loves fucking with me. I do have a sweet ass for God. Another one of the debates I was watching, they were talking about the homosexual marriage and how it's an unholy thing because it's not how God wants it. And I'm like, God makes people gay if he's real. And in my head, I feel like that's a pretty reasonable argument to take with a religious person. And I'll explain why I think God makes people gay. There's about 1 million ways that you can interpret the Bible. And kind of all of them mean either, if you are a gay person, either God is not all powerful because he can't stop you from putting penises in your bum or lady lips on your lady lips, or that God is okay with it. In some cases, in some interpretations, actually planned it that way. From my perspective, I don't really give a shit about whether people are straight or gay or whatever, as long as they're happy and living the lives that fit their lives. Whatever, that didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. Like, who cares if people like, people of the same gender, people of different genders, people of different biological sexes, whatever the case. Yes, those are different. If that's what they do, cool, welcome to it. Even if they like all of the above, all right, cool. And if they choose to pair bond as species who are social in nature, well, that's awesome. And if they don't choose to pair bond, or they choose to have multiple pair bonds, or whatever the case may be, fucking A. Christians have this habit of believing that God's definition of marriage somehow appears in the Bible, which I honestly don't think it does, aside from the fact that, by and large, a lot of the biblical couples are couples. That's kind of it, though. Jesus didn't couple, so it seems weird that they even question that. But whatever. When it comes right down to it, I don't know if people know this, but those pair bonds existed before Jesus was born. People were getting married. People were creating social family units before God took the time to explain to them what was good and what was not. And some of those were in line with what this whole concept is, and some of them were not. And who gives fuck, number one? At the end of the day, again, are you happy? Are you living your best life? Blah, blah, blah. Cool. If you are, way to go. That ain't easy to do in this modern wackadoo world. But if you're not, fix that. Live your authentic self. But yeah, the term pair bond, in my opinion, is an attempt to sort of co-opt the scientific concept of pair bonding, which can be a very important part of particular types of animals and how they interact, and imply some kind of deeper, more intrinsic value than it actually has. I was pair bonded with a person, and it didn't go very well. We ended up getting unpair bonded in a legal sense. I also really take umbrage when, because these same people will talk about, how marriage, because it's Christian, it has certain characteristics and stuff, and that somehow allows them to dictate what other marriages would look like. To me, there are two very different things. I do believe that there is a legal concept of a marriage, and that can take whatever form it wants. And then there's the religious concept of a marriage, which can take whatever form it wants, or at least whatever form its religion dictates. That should be enough for people. I am Canadian. I think we need to recognize the difference between what religion dictates in politics and influence blowing smoke out of their ass. Influencers, sorry. Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly the point that I just made. Like, those are two different things. If a marriage is giving people some kind of credible advantage, tax deductions, whatever, then it should not be something that is allowed only for people of religious sect X or whatever. It should be available to all people, and in whatever way that makes sense for them. If I choose, for example, to marry legally somebody who I do not love or have a desire to pair bond with or whatever, how is that any different from a legal perspective? It is me utilizing a tax loophole or whatever. Fine. From a religious, I totally get how a religion could take umbrage with my doing so, and they can choose not to accept or to accept or whatever, and that's on them. But me, I shouldn't be stopped from any legal benefits that come to me as a person who chooses to fulfill whatever duties are on the expectations list there. Mormons have multiple wives is normal. Pair bond? That's my favorite part of Mormonism. Not that I'm as I have often explained, that I am typically someone who associates themselves with being ethically non-monogamous. Whereas I don't think a lot of the fundamentalist Mormon types use the ethically part in there. But I love the part in the Doctrine and Covenants, and I used to remember what the particular chapter or whatever the fuck they're called was, where it's like, hello, this is a letter from God, aka me, to Emma Smith, Joseph's wife. Emma, promise you, it's God. Joseph's the one writing this down, but it's God. Trust the system. So here's the thing. Joseph doesn't want to have sex with other women. He's, we've talked. He's steadfast. He loves you, and he would never do that. But I, again, God, really need him to fuck a lot. And just randoms. Just fuckity. That's what I need. So I'm asking you, as God and not your husband, to just be cool with it, man. I love that. I love that it's like the time in high school I was in math class in Math 10, and this guy is writing a note to the teacher from his father. It's like, "Dear Mr. Fast, please excuse Adrian from math class at 10:46 because he has an appointment. Thank you, Adrian," or, whatever the dad's name was, signed to look like the dad. And it just happened that Mr. Fast was standing over his shoulder watching him write this note, and then snatches it up, and goes to the front of the class and reads it. And he's like, "I don't think I'm going to let you out of class for your appointment. That made me giggle. This is the same thing. It's like, no, I didn't write it. God wrote it. I'm just the messenger. What a thing. Muslims can take and divorces can essentially marry and divorce easily as men, pair bond. Yes. Then there's the discomfort with anything that isn't biologically correct to them that allows them to crap on people. Yep, that's a big one. Hang on a second. I have to stop the stream for a moment. What can I do for you? In 2 hours. So that couldn't have happened later. Loud papa. Where was I? Then there's the discomfort with anything that isn't biologically. Yeah, okay, so the biologically correct argument, which is hilarious because we don't have a clue on these things, right? If I look at someone, and let's say the person I'm looking at is female presenting, and I, someone who finds myself attracted to female presenting people, go, hubba hubba, what a hottie babe, woo woo. And I decide that I want to pair bond with that person. And then I find out that their biology doesn't match what my eyes told me. And I suppose the people who say this shit expect that I'm going to be horrified and angered and all that kind of stuff. But personally, I find myself most attracted to a human being of varying characteristics. And I have no reason to deny that there be every possibility that somebody could have biological parts that are not my typical attraction, but that I could be like, wow, that person is so fucking rad. I would like to be inside their pantaloons, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But people will get angry about these tricks that they've been fooled with or whatever. Or where, it's just something that's not how they do, and they go, ew, gross. Also, God hates you. I hate that shit. There's no fucking call for that in the wild, wild world. Institutions versus God versus culture. I would say God is an institution, because, essentially the religion is a built-up thing, and there are just, it's just one instance of type institution. And culture... they're opposed because institutions create rigorous definitions. It's like how, there was a guy a while back who commented on one of my videos and explained to me that I was in fact not a libertarian socialist because I accept the necessity for police. And if I lived my entire life as a person who is a libertarian socialist and therefore could only think in the following ways, in the following means, and with the following words, then that would be empty. I wouldn't be a libertarian socialist. I would be a puppet who repeats the phrases, or a parrot or whatever, repeats the phrases that matter. Instead, culture, institutions, all of these things create frameworks with which to live, and nobody actually fits any of them. Woo! Hey, no hope for the Nate. How you doing, my friend? Marriage is a convenient, tax-friendly institution. Why don't churches pay taxes then? Churches don't pay taxes because we didn't like taxes when we established this country, or at least the U.S., and then Canada's like, oh, no, sure, I guess we'll do the same stuff. And I kind of get why, right? The people who were being taxed in the Americas during the whole Boston Tea Party kind of stuff were people who lived in a whole different world, the New World. And they're being asked to take their money and give it to some foreign king to do foreign king things that they didn't give fuck number one about. It makes sense to be like, why am I doing this? Fuck it, let's just stop, right? And I'm okay with that. But when they established that church, they had this very anti-tax, the invisible hand will save us all thing, and that's just silly dumb. But that's where they were at, and the idea of taxing churches was just blasphemous in their minds, because churches were the social core of society that did all the good things and all that kind of stuff. And so they could just be pissy about it and be like, oh, churches shouldn't pay taxes because they're the things that do good. They are the invisible hand. Only the problem is they're not. The invisible hand isn't real, and churches should fucking pay taxes. Period. If they want to influence culture, then pay up cross people. Fuck yes. I 100% agree. And especially if they want to leverage their institutional norms as social norms and enforce those norms, well then, you are a dictating part of society. Fuck your face, pay your share, motherfuckers. I think. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy everything. Hallowed be thy everything. It's true, including thy promises. God is not particularly good at keeping his promises, like, not wiping out large portions of society because, he learned his lesson from Noah. Oops-a-doodle. Sore and tired. My old high school class does a yearly alumni basketball tournament as a fundraiser for the current team. 2 games down, 1 to go. My legs are ready to fall off. I hope everyone else is doing well. Oh, dude, I understand. I do try to keep myself in fairly reasonable shape. I'm not a young man, and so, it's important that I do things. But definitely, if I was told, hey, Jim, we're going to do some basketball, and I need you to play 3 games in a row, I'm fairly certain that you had best have with you one of those, like, clear things that makes your heart keep going, because I would probably die. These are facts. I wish it was different. I wish I was still young and spry. Not that I was ever young and spry. I was young, not really spry. But I wish I was, in top physical specimen kind of thing. But I'm not. I'm probably never going to be. And at this age, it just gets harder and harder. So at this point, what I'm trying to do is just stave off the cruel effects of time, that horrible mistress. But I try. This tournament is a yearly reminder of how out of shape I am. Yes. And that's the thing. Like, I love the idea of that, right? This is the invisible hand, my friend. You are a part of the system. What you're doing is you had presumably a really great time playing basketball when you were a younger fella, and now you're doing a fundraiser to help support the people who are following in your footsteps. I think that's a fantastic thing, and a great way to be like, oh, right, maybe I don't need all of the supersized fries all the time. Maybe I should do better. For me, it's really tricky to do the exercise thing. Not impossible by any stretch, and I could do more than I do. But, I do have a very busy life, and I make choices as a result, and sometimes it makes it a little bit tricky to do things like go to the gym. But it's wintertime, and it's time for old Jim to start going back to the gym, so I'll be looking at doing something like that. Hell yeah, I want to allow the future generation the chance to get the experiences I did. And that's something I think is super cool. I was never a sporto back in the high school days. I was skinny, weak, ineffectual, worthless in general. Not somebody that, got the ball passed to them a lot. But after high school, when I became not skinny, but in fact big fat, I decided that, exercise would be a thing that I would try. And I did some team sports and I did some solo sports and stuff. And I really enjoyed a lot of the experiences I had. And, similarly, I hope that other people have great experiences. And so, I think that's a really cool thing to do. My ability to play 3 games aside, which would be 0. It was a very good outlet for me before I was able to dive into music. Young Nate needed the outlet. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are really benefited by having access to things like team sports. And I think it teaches a lot of really important lessons. They're not the only ways to teach those lessons. And I do have real struggles with like the American model of like team sports as a way out of poor economic situation, and team sports as very corporatist mindset of us versus them and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, playing sports is fun. Doing sporto things is fun. And we should encourage that. Yeah, so don't trust people that say pair bond because they're probably annoying jerks. All right, let's do a little talking about the Great Reset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump what I think the Great Reset is, and then we'll go from there. We're going to talk about what other people think the Great Reset is, in at least as I understand it from the various things I've seen, and then we'll look at what the Great Reset people say that it is, and then we'll try and sort of suss out what we can make of what reality would be. So my understanding of the Great Reset, and again, could be very stupid, is we're in a place right now where we have built a society that is essentially sustained by oil and petrochemicals. The most powerful people are involved in the oil supply chain, the oil delivery, the selling of oil, all of that kind of stuff. Oh boy, the Great Reset. That's when you hit the reset button in the old SNES. Yes, that's exactly it. Or when you're bowling and you're bowling with someone else and they go to throw the ball and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, push the button, and just as they release the ball and it's rolling towards the pins get lifted up and the ball goes underneath and we all laugh because it's funny every time. That's the Great Reset. Now, the Great Reset is essentially we have recognized that climate change is real. Some people have not recognized that. They are late to the party, but maybe that doesn't fucking matter, right? Whether or not everyone believes is kind of immaterial. Science believes, or at least legitimate scientists in the field of climate believe, and have, plenty of science on their side. Though not perfect science, because perfect science would be knowing every single thing that has ever happened ever, and we don't live in that fucking world. I saw a really good thing about climate change, and it was it's a Mario. It was a guy, did a little 4-box thing, and he said, do something, do nothing, climate change real, climate change fake. And if you do nothing and climate change is fake, nothing happens. Yay, best possible scenario. Totally agree, best possible scenario. But it's not in our control as to one of those axes, right? So if we do nothing and climate change is real, total human annihilation. Not very good. On the contrary, if we do something and climate change is real and we can stop it or whatever, then we save billions of lives and everything is great. That's your best or second best outcome. And then your other outcome, it'd be if climate change isn't real and we do something, we waste some money. We do some stupid stuff and it's a waste and nothing happened. And of all of the things, then it's pretty easy to go. So if we don't spend money, we have the potential for total human annihilation on the planet. We don't like that. If we do have spend money, then we have the potential to waste it. But we waste money all the time. A lot of money. Yeah. I went and saw the Headstones play. That was a waste of money. It's what we do. So that's kind of it's annoying, but it's life. I don't think it's a big fucking issue if we do that. And the potential upside is, of course, that we stop the problem, which is good. And the potential downside of the other thing is total human annihilation. So it's pretty easy to figure out which of those 4 corners that make sense to be in. So the Great Reset is saying, okay, well, we're saying we're going to do stuff, and this is a good time to sort of consider. Take that back, Tweeter and the Monkey. I'll tell you what, I will sing that at karaoke today. That's how I feel. I have failed you. I am Canadian. I do actually like the Headstones. I was struggling to think of a time where I wasted money because I've been poor for my whole fucking life, and wasting money isn't really my game. But so yeah, I'm sorry, Hugh Dillon. I'm sorry. You deserve better. Yes. Where was I going? Shit my brain. Right, the Great Reset. So essentially, we recognize we have to do this investment. We have to pivot away from our reliance on petrochemicals. And this is a good time to make some other systemic changes with a sort of, future facing perspective in mind. Now, the people who are making the claim of the Great Reset as the proponents, the Davos people, these are what you call shitlibs. Most of them, at least, are shitlibs. They are people who are like, oh, if we just change a little tiny bit, then we can continue to exploit the world forever and make lots of money, and it'll be good. And that's, if that's their perspective, okay, as long as we're making the right decision. It sucks, but we're making the right decision. These people don't speak for me. I personally think that it makes sense for us to do this, and a lot of the things that they talk about in the sort of prescriptive aspects of the Great Reset, because it's going to be beneficial for all. And that's kind of a Jim thing. I like to imagine a better world and how we get there and all of that kind of shit. So I think that's a good thing, and we should do that. I'm just going to quickly, before I forget, I'm going to, where the fuck am I? There. I'm going to open Karaoke, Tweeter, and the Monkey Man, and it'll just be ready for when we're there. Okay, back to it. Does the future need us? Are we an endangered species? I don't think the future needs us. I don't think the planet needs us. I don't think anything needs us. But we do have the ability to be a little bit selfish and be like, yeah, maybe it doesn't need us, but we shouldn't fuck everything up. There's no innate value to the fact that the Earth has life, right? We're not bringing, at least as far as we know, we're not bringing any special to the table in that regard. My table's all wobbly. Sorry about that. I'll try not to bump it too terribly much. So, like, from a cosmic scale, I always joke about when people are like, talk about karma and the universe balancing itself out by, if I poop on someone's lawn, then it's my karma, when it turns out that person is the guy I have the job interview with the next week. Right? Cool. That's not a universal force. If karma was a universal force, we could test it and come up with like reasonable, constructible hypotheses that we could prove or disprove. It's not. The universe, as I like to say, is a little too busy being a fucking universe to spend time going, did Jim just shit on someone's lawn? Ooh, I'll get even with him. These concepts are dumb and stupid. Where was I going? Why did I bring up karma? Fuck, where am I? What is my name even? Damn, it sucks to be me. Oh yeah, the whole question of does the future need us? I don't think there's a necessity for humans to exist on the planet or for life to exist on the planet. But I think it's kind of nifty that it does. As a living human, I think it's pretty all right. And I think that we should do things that we think are the right thing in order to allow for that to happen. So when we talk about the reduction of population, for example, and we don't talk about it in terms of like genocide, but we talk about it in terms of like lowering birth weights, that's a good thing. We don't need 8 billion people. But I would be hard pressed to grab my knife and go, well, I'll take us down a few billion. That's probably not the right answer either. But reducing our footprint is probably a good thing. Reducing our carbon footprint is probably a good thing because we don't want to wipe out all life on the planet. Is there a reason it's here? Who knows? Probably not. Is it necessary for the functioning of the universe? Who knows? Probably not. But we can still make the educated guess that it's kind of cool to be alive and not to be starving to death all the time. And therefore, we should do things to avoid making that happen for the majority of people. It's a thing. So the whole concept of the Great Reset is we recognize that we need to do a thing. We have certain prescriptive actions that we can take, and then a lot of flowery language. One of the things that is problematic about it is when right-wing people hear the flowery language, the hyperbole, they don't have that wire in their brain, I think. I'm not saying they're dumb. I'm saying that hyperbole and things like that are kind of lost on them. So if someone says, like, now is the opportunity for us to redefine what it means to be human, they don't get that that's flowery language. They go, oh, wait, are they going to change our genes? Are they going to alter the very core of humanity? No, they're not. What you're doing is living the slippery slope argument, right? And that, I think, is a real problem in conservative circles, is the idea that someone says a thing and you think they are absolutely literal and that they are talking directly to whatever ridiculous QAnon bullshit you happen to snort. So, no, they're not planning on redesigning human genomes just because it's as fine a time as any. Since we're getting off petrochemicals, we might as well make humans that can fly with magic powers. No. So a lot of people from a more right-wing side of the aisle will hear about things like the Great Reset. And for one thing, they immediately assume the worst when you hear the Great anything, right? Because the Great Depression sucked. So therefore, anything that's the Great, Alexander the Great, probably terrible. Which is dumb. And reset sounds like, a pretty finality kind of thing, right? When you reset a video game, you're starting from scratch. When you reset the computer, it reboots and starts from scratch. We're not talking about starting from scratch. We're not talking about, like, you know what, maybe we go back to being agrarian. Ooh, hunter-gatherer, that's a thing. That's not what it's about. It's about taking this opportunity to make some fundamental changes in how we do the world. And I'm all for that. I just don't agree with a lot of the changes that they want to make because I don't think they're the right changes. They don't solve the problem. They maybe outlive the problem. Anything great must suck. Yes. And, I can prove this by saying I had a great blowjob. Also, when you restart a computer, depending on the process, it may run quicker after. Yes, it may run quicker after. It may free up problems that were lodged in device memory. There's all kinds of great ways of associating that. Reset assumes prior knowledge, or does it assume no prior knowledge? I would say that reset sounds, to me at least, when I hear people talking about doing a reset, I just think going back to factory, default, or whatever you've sort of your baseline is. And we don't have a baseline for how humans do. And so when people say reset and you take it that way, you go, oh my God, well, we're going to have total global chaos. And like, no, we're probably fucking not. We get reset every day. Yes, it's called sleeping. And when I wake up and I open my eyes and I'm like, holy shit, there's a world. That's how I reset. But as a culture, things tend to crisis before changing quickly. Yeah, we this is the thing, is we are very lazy as a species, and we love to just ease on into things and like, we'll get to it until it becomes a thing that we fucking have to get to. Exceptions are, especially from a capitalist perspective, because anytime we're making change is expensive, right? Doing the same shit that we're already good at is not expensive, and it feels easier, so we do that. And in order to do a change, you have to, invest in a change. And where we do that is actually another example of how I'm not a believer in a truly stateless society, because the state is often the thing that does the foundational work to establish these major changes. And that's good. And then, we can theoretically run with them or whatever, however that works. But it's the state that will actively make these things happen. And the fact that we have states that are simply just pretending that global warming, or climate change as it's now called, is just not a thing that we're going to address is the problem, because business ain't going to do it. Fuck reset, evolve. Yeah, evolution good. Big fan of evolution, right? We must always adapt. Evolution in action, embrace, adapt, overcome, rinse and repeat, then chill. Thoughts are things, reprogram. Yeah, absolutely. And we're so used to this sort of, silly notion that we know how the world should do because this is how we do the world. And when you question that, people get a little freaky deaky, right? And that's okay. But they have to be able to breathe through it and hear the arguments and understand and make the decisions that are in the best interests of all. Or at least get swept up in the decisions that are for the best interests of all. So that's a thing. So that's my take on what I think the Great Reset is. And I think also a little bit about what I think they're doing wrong in talking about it, in terms of both the flowery language piece and the we are neo-libs, we are I was almost going to say the T word, that's not a good one, lib cucks. And we want the world to be just fine with us being billionaires, but also, survive a little bit longer or whatever. And I don't share those ideals. I think the billionaires, the concept of it is just stupid, and that people should be looking after each other because we are a social species, and that's what a good, successful social species does. A pack of wolves, yes, there's pecking orders, and they grumble, 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 and they growl at each other when there's a deer that's been killed, and all that kind of stuff. But they do make sure that the young have food. They do make sure that the elderly survive as long as is sort of reasonably practicable. Goptards. Yes, that's a good one. I like that, Goptards. It just sounds like, you could say like there's a hella number of Goptards or a helicoptered. Falls off the tongue almost as easily to get away from that T word. Yeah, exactly. I hadn't even thought of that one. And it's funny because it's not a word, like I don't say lib T slur. Not because of any puritanical stance or whatever, but I just think it's a stupid word. The only time I really use it is when mocking other people for using it. But it's turd is so much better. Giant douche versus turd sandwich all over again. Oh yes. That was a time. Giant douche versus turd sandwich. Which do you bite into? Did you hear about this? There was a car accident the other day. It was a vinegar truck and a water truck driving down the road, and they hit each other and just went, doosh. Oh, the wit. As opposed to saying T, you were mocking the derogatory term folks use against libs. It reflects on them, the use of the T. Yeah, and I still think it's probably not the right answer. I should probably do better, all that kind of stuff. I'm cool with that. You can never unhear that joke. You're right. You can't. It's like this one. What do you call a fish with no eyes? Fish. But what do you call a deer with no eyes? No idea. Hey-o. That's right. I'm here all week. Tip your servers. All right. So let's take a moment now and let's just go look at what the fine Davos. Oh, that's perfect. I'm gonna switch over to my browser view and you'll have a giant Davy 504 to stare at. Don't make me dad joke on your ass. Oh, I can dad joke like a champion. I am, in fact, a dad. All right, so let's go Great Reset and just see. So we have the World Economic Forum is our top. That's not a bass. It does not slap. Slap like now. I love him. He is so good. All right, the Great Reset. So there's an urgent need for global stakeholders to cooperate in simultaneously managing the direct consequences of the COVID-19 fit into this too. I always forget about that because I focus on the petrochemical side of it. Managing the direct consequences of the COVID-19 crisis to improve the state of the world, the World Economic Forum is starting the Great Reset Initiative. First off, anytime it comes from the World Economic Forum, those people are monsters and ghouls, and they don't deserve to, get a platform, frankly. This is like the 1%, but the smug 1%. There's the evil 1% that are like, wow, 1%ers and we'll destroy everything and I'll have to get one more penny. And then there's the 1% that are like, oh man, I love having billions of dollars. It allows me to do really great things for the world. I mean, I don't, but it feels nice to say it. And fuck those people. And Bill Gates is one of those people, right? You don't get to fucking hang out at Jeffrey Epstein's fuckchild island and not have some consequences. I'm sorry, dude. I don't care that you're a billionaire. All right. So the context, the COVID-19 crisis and the political, economic, and social disruption it has caused is fundamentally changing the traditional context for decision-making, the inconsistencies, inadequacies, and contradictions of multiple systems from health and financial to energy and education, and are more exposed than ever amidst the global context of concern for lives, livelihoods, and the planet. Leaders find themselves at a historic crossroads, managing short-term pressure against medium and long-term uncertainties. So all of that is valid and true. Whatever someone's stance is on COVID-19, like you can believe that it was fake or it was released by the evil people from evil land or whatever the fuck you want to believe. At the end of the day, we know that disease is not our friend. And that disease has the ability to fuck with the whole population, potentially, right? If there is a disease that is highly transmissible and highly dangerous, that can be problematic. Now, I will grant you, COVID, in retrospect, was not as, it was pretty shitty, despite what people seem to think about, like, oh, it had less deaths than the Holocaust, so who gives a shit? It was still very bad, but it could have been far worse. And I think if it had been far worse, there are people who are currently on the, oh, it was nothing side who would probably shut the fuck up and be like, oh my God, it was really bad. This is the problem with retrospect, right? So COVID-19, as it was, leading up, and we're starting to know, we have known for a long time that a variation of coronavirus was probably going to come. There was probably going to be some kind of a very serious pandemic thing that came as a result. And it released and spread and had really, really scary numbers in the beginning. So we took some pretty significant steps. Were they right? I think personally that yes, they were. But if the argument is that, we shouldn't have taken those steps because it wasn't so bad, which there are a lot of people who make that argument, you're wrong, because we didn't know it wasn't going to be so bad in your terms. What we knew was this was a threat and we would react to it. It would be like if you are a pro boxer and you see that he's winding up to throw a punch and you go, you know what? I can block this, or I can just take it on the chin. I don't really think he has the strength to knock me out in this one punch. I would suggest that blocking it is still the right answer, because there is a chance that it could be the punch that knocks you out, and B, it's not fun to get punched no matter what. You do the thing to best protect yourself. That's just smart. And that's what we did with COVID. We tried to do it with H1N1. We failed miserably. Fortunately, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. We did a better job with COVID, but not a perfect job by any stretch. And I think we saw a greatly reduced impact as a result. And then we look at that reduced impact and go, well, what was even the point? Fuck. All right. My brother got a Star Wars tattoo on his cheek. You wouldn't believe the Luke on his face. Oh my God. You. I love you. I am Canadian. That made my life. Sometimes the hard choice is the correct choice, even if it seems like it's a tough situation. It was tough, but it was brief in comparison to how bad it could have been without any action. Yeah, and we couldn't have known whether it was going to be worse than it was or not. So you do the prudent thing, and you react to what looks like it could be the big bad as if it was the big bad, right? You do the necessary, as they say. The whole thing wasn't so bad as a frame for dumb fucks to use to say nothing needed to change. Exactly. To imply that the decisions that were made were foolish as opposed to precautionary and wise. The threat of COVID wasn't mass in dealing with it. It was the threat to the entrenched powers that showed what could happen for the good of all of us if we did something. Yeah, this is exactly the conversation I had before COVID, the summer before, talking with my buddy in our camping trip, and I was like, we kind of need a pandemic, nothing that'll wipe us out, but something that like we all need to take seriously as a mechanism for coming together. And we got that for about a week, and then it stopped. That's what they're fighting. Basic income, aka CERB. Yeah, the people that are fucking angry that CERB exists are the people that I just want to shake. Like I get the rich people going, why should I be paying taxes when some first off, you're not paying taxes. You're paying the least amount of money possible. You're screwing over the tax system. You don't get to pull that card. Second off, why should you? Because we are a social species and we are stronger if we look after all of us. And the benefits from basic income in terms of reduced crime rate, reduced poverty rates, reduced hospitalizations for preventable illness, a million things are massively financial beneficial for everyone and massively socially beneficial for everyone. So CERB was fucking awesome. And fighting it is kind of like saying, my penis gives me pleasure, and sometimes that feels a little selfish, so I'm just going to cut it off on the off chance that I'm getting too much pleasure. Like, you can do that. I won't stop you, but you're a fucking idiot. Holy shit, am I ever behind? The fact we can make people's lives safer and better, but they lose power. Billionaires wear masks and protect. They just don't want their power challenged by regular folks. Definitely. If people start thinking things can go better for them, then power and money have to share. Can't have that. And yet all these corporations get even richer. Yet there was a lot of that during COVID, wasn't there? A lot of corporations, larger corporations, that did real well out of the situation, where a lot of smaller businesses and mom and pop type things had real fucking struggles. Most profits ever for big business, aka oligopolies and monopolies. Straight up, that was the first time in a long time that I felt I could afford to live. Even the time I was working and had some government assistance to balance things made life way easier. Yeah, absolutely, right? And when you remove that fear, like if you just said, we're going to blanket all of this country gets a minimum of, let's call it $2,000 a month. Guaranteed, if you're working and you make $2,500 a month, then cool, you've hit that minimum. But if you make $1,500 a month, we'll give you $500. If you make nothing a month, we'll give you $2,000. Everyone has the same basic level of economic stability. Now, is everyone going to be perfect? Of course not. That's just not a thing that's ever real. But the massive benefit to people in terms of your John Q. public is incalculable, right? If you're not worried about where your food is going to come from, you know that you have food, you have rent, you have like the bare bones basics, that takes down criminality substantially. The more that you can do to especially enact change for the stability of people at the lowest economic levels, the better your system does. That's just fucking the way shit goes. Yeah, somehow CERB got the economy moving again. Yeah, compared to like giving $1 billion to in Canada so that they could rebrand and move to the US, that was a good investo. But what people don't understand is what is the where is the value in money? It is not valuable if it is in your bank, right? It's valuable if it's circulating. It generates momentum, economic momentum, when it's being utilized. And so CERB guaranteeing that people could afford to get skip the dishes, people could afford to order their bullshit on Amazon and stuff. All of that was economic movement that was so fucking vital at that time and will continue to always be the core thing that makes the world better. Every dollar that you give to Jeff Bezos first has to be a dollar that provides benefit to everyone else in the chain all the way up to him. And then he smog dragons it onto a pile and goes, yes, I'm wealthy. Fine. I can't stop him from doing that. Well, I mean, legally, I can't stop him from doing that. But the benefit of giving the money to the people and it eventually trickling its way up to him versus giving it to him or Elon or any of these people or Encana or any of these things, the difference is massive. When you save money at the top, you don't help anything. When you save money at the bottom, everything gets better. It's pretty simple math. But then people stopped doing it as they were told. The big quitting, etc., or quiet quitting. Yes, record profit still blows. Yeah, still blows my mind. UBI works. Progressive taxation, aka rich pay their share, works only if you can make them. And the problem is that we don't do that because the rich are the people who are essentially making those decisions, right? The rich are in control of the government and in friendships with and in regular contact with. So we don't go after them. We go after middle class and poor people because they don't have the ability to defend themselves. So that's one of the flaws of the system. Selfish, greedy, powerful motherfuckers can kiss my fucking ass. Eat the rich. Yep, I would totally. They must have the best meat, right? They have the luxury of time to exercise. They put all the right chemicals in their bodies. There's no fucking McDonald's in there. I'm all for it. If you're gonna eat someone, right? I'm not saying cannibalism is good, but if you're gonna eat someone, eat a rich person. It just makes sense. Oh my God, quiet quitting, aka people doing what they're paid for and not going above and beyond because they recognize the power dynamic and are tired of it. And the funny thing is, I've been doing that for my entire career. So I work in a corporation right now that says, well, we are only going to pay you for 8 hours a day. And I'm fine with that. But you know what that means? It means I work for 8 hours a day. And if I am like 2 sentences away from a document at 5 o'clock or whatever that thing is, then I stop. Because no one gets to have my time for free. I should not be expected to do ridiculous more stuff than what they're prepared to do for me, and I'm okay with that. Likewise, they're quiet paying, if you want to call it that, because they have established the role of what they expect from me, and as long as I meet that minimum requirement, they will pay me. Now, one could argue, if I do better, they will pay me more. One could argue that, and yet, one could look at my life or any amount of historical context and be like, oh, that isn't real. Gotcha. No McDonald's stares at Trump. Well, but that's the thing. Hi, Maria. How are you? That's the thing. Trump is the exception. He's not an outsider, contrary to what everybody thinks. But Trump is... Do you remember the phrase nouveau riche? Not that any of us were alive for the use of nouveau riche. But we know it from media context. You had the aristocracy. And then you had the nouveau riche. These newly wealthy people who didn't have the same couth and manners. Right? Donald Trump is like that. He is every bit an insider. But he's an outside insider because the people who, were raised in opulence, more so than he can look down on him still and be like, oh, Donald, look at you, nouveau riche bastard. And that's amazing to me. That is fucking hilarity. Yeah. So Trump can eat McDonald's and can be in a Home Alone movie and can, do things that seemingly other humans would do. because he's an outsider. I kind of think the whole McDonald thing, like, there's probably some fucking person in his universe going, no, that's good for your brand. Eat the McDonald's. You know what? When those college kids show up for basketball teams that won the nationals or whatever the fuck that was, when they show up, give them McDonald's. It'll be great. It's a brand thing. Like, and that's part of the problem is these people all become lost in the sauce of their brand. I mean, he was raised in opulence, though. Yeah, he was, but I don't think there's levels of opulence, right? He wasn't raised like the coastal elite billionaires, and I don't think that he took to a lot of the, when we think of like a billionaire, you think of someone who becomes more refined, and Donald became more garish. Donald didn't go along with the herd, not because he was making a conscious decision to be true to his self or whatever, but because he was making the conscious decision to surround himself with Russian oligarchs and mafiosi and things like that. The world that he lived in and was financially successful in was not the same as the world that a Bill Gates wound up in. They both wound up on Fuckchild Island, but by different paths. I think his dad was a bit like that too, to be honest. I don't know anything about Herr Drumpf, the senior, so I can't speak to it, but I wouldn't at all be surprised. And I think there's something about like being a rich New Yorker versus being a rich from California. There's something to that. Yeah, normal people rich. Hey, she loves puns. Long time no see. I'm so glad to have you back. Right on. It's good to see you. All right. Enough of the drumping. Let's fix my eyebrows. Yep, we're good. All right, we're gonna go back and look a little bit more about this great reset business. All right. So again, we're talking about the context is we had COVID, and we had decisions that we had to make, and created problems for multiple systems, highlighted issues that were existing systemic problems, and that we need leaders find themselves at a historic crossroads managing short-term pressures against medium and long-term uncertainties. This is one of the things that we as a society are really shitty at, because we are by and large a capitalist society, and our short-term democratic process. Both of those things don't make for long success when long-term planning. That sounds wacky, but if you focus on the short term, you are looking at what can I do right now to make more money for shareholders? Or conversely, what can I do right now to incur more support from the voter base? Right? Your goals are all short term. So medium and long term thinking is just not a thing. It's very uncommon to find a business leader who actually is a strategic thinker in a truly long-term sense, because they're so focused on short-term goals. If I get told that I can keep making oil money, and that will be, I will make $100,000 every 7 seconds, whatever fucking magic number, or I can invest a whole bunch of money in new projects, and those new projects will in 10 years time bring in $200,000 every 7 seconds, or whatever fucking, I don't even remember what number I said, but you know what I mean. Like, that seems like a good answer, but you have to get through the shareholders first, and that's a thing. Capital should be available to make as much profit as it can, because if you anthropomorphize it, folks will swallow that bullshit. Yes, Capital, who is a friend of mine, friend of the stream, longtime listener, regular watcher, caller, all that kind of stuff, Capital. You're absolutely right. We imply that capital, and it's all this invisible hand magic, right? Capital has a will. Capital makes the world better because it moves intrinsically to the hands of the people who will have the most likelihood of benefiting society, which is bullshit. And we know it's bullshit, and we see all around us that it's bullshit. So let's just stop pretending like it's actually a thing. All right, so the opportunity. As we enter a unique window of opportunity to shape the recovery, this initiative will offer insights to help inform all those determining the future state of global relations, the direction of national economies, the priorities of societies, the nature of business models, and the management of a global commons. Drawing from the vision and vast experience of the leaders engaged across the forum's communities, the Great Reset Initiative has a set of dimensions to build a new social contract that honors the dignity of every human being. What are these? These are empty bullshit words. They are basically, it's just great man theory, but change it from great man to great men, right? All we're doing is saying, hey, we got smart people, and they must be smart because they're at the top, so they can make the world a better place, because that never gets old. All right. Our partners don't give a shit. Uplink is a digital platform to crowdsource innovations. Fuck your face. We've built a 3D virtual environment about the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't care about that. Find out more about the Great Reset. We're going to click on Read More. Corporate equals identity equals anthropomorphic equals by all means they should get a say and be like us peoples. Yeah, it really weirds me out that corporations are legally considered people with like the rights and freedoms associated. That's just a weird. Now is the time for a Great Reset. Visit the Great Reset microsite here. Hear Klaus Schwab on these podcasts. A lot of the debate that I watched, they were talking about Klaus Schwab a lot. And this is where I really figured out the whole concept of conservatives lack the hyperbole gene. Because Klaus Schwab, he's writing a book and he's doing like, we stand here on the precipice of a new enlightened humanity, fundamentally changed as we intertwine ourselves with the technologies around us. I'm making this up. I don't know what he actually, wrote. But that was the vibe of the quotes I was hearing. And the conservatives are like, wait, they want to intertwine us with technology? We are going to be some kind of techno-cyborg chimera? This is the world that this man wants? I'm like, no, it's not. He just wants people to buy his fucking book and be like, what a visionary. Because he apparently sucks at hyperbole too. Okay. COVID lockdowns may be gradually easing, but anxiety about the world's social and economic process is only intensifying. There's good reason to worry. A sharp economic downturn has already begun, and we could be facing the worst depression since the 1930s. But while this outcome is likely, it is not unavoidable. To achieve a better outcome, the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. Every country, from the United States to China, must participate, and every industry, from oil and gas to technology, must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. Now, this is my problem with it. The assumption that capitalism can be reset into being better is dumb. And what they're talking about is this impossible notion where everyone would just do capitalism, but also make the world a better place. Those are mutually incongruous, and I'm sorry, but it's facts. Okay, there's some fucking... Let's go to this micro site. We'll see what we can hear. Fuck, I'm tired. From now on, when I hear the word big reset, I'll be thinking, that's what Xi said. There's an urgent need for global... Okay, oh my God, is this the thing that we were just on? Yes, it is. Well, shit on me. Great Reset dialogue. A lot of this is video shit, too, and I don't want to... Okay, let's look at our mission. Oh, this is the World Economic Forum's mission. We don't care about that. It looks like I'm not going to get really what I want here. Let's go back to that page. Maybe we can get some more out of this. So, what is the World Economic Forum doing about the coronavirus outbreak? There are many reasons to pursue a great reset, but the most urgent is COVID-19. Having already led to hundreds of thousands of deaths, this pandemic represents one of the worst public health crises in recent history. And with the casualties still mounting in many parts of the world, it is far from over. I agree with that sentiment. The reality is, as much as I said earlier, it could have been worse. It was bad. We can pretend like It wasn't bad because we all lived and who gives a shit, but it was bad. A lot of people died, even in the developed world that had access to vaccines and all these other things. A lot of people still manage to be dead now as a result of COVID-19, which is shitty. Add to that, we have things like long COVID. We have a great deal of unknown as to what the actual tangible impact of COVID-19 has been. We're still facing more uncertainty about this. We're back to the new normal and all these things, but that doesn't mean it wasn't shitty. It was shitty in a lot of ways. Okay. This will have serious long-term consequences for economic growth, public debt, employment, and human well-being. I love how human well-being is the last thing in the sentence. Like, well, economic growth, public debt, which is a huge consideration. Employment, maybe, I don't know, who cares? Oh, and also humans. According to the Financial Times, global government debt has already reached its highest level in peacetime. Moreover, unemployment is skyrocketing in many countries. In the U.S., for example, 1 in 4 workers have filed for unemployment since mid-March, with new weekly claims far above historic highs. The International Monetary Fund expects the world economy to shrink by 3% this year, a downgrade of 6.3% percentage points in just 4 months. Now, that is a big deal. Absolutely. The worst thing that we can have is high unemployment in a capitalist system, especially one without a UBI. Because if you build your system around the concept that everyone can, race for the apple, then high unemployment means a lot of people aren't racing, or at least aren't making it to the apple. That's not awesome. That means that people are suffering, and suffering, it turns out, is bad. If you look at things, I'm dropping a bunch of frames, and hopefully that didn't get weird. I don't know. Who knows? Something happened there. I just noticed that things are in the red, which is weird because I'm getting like mostly 5K. Let me know if it's like suddenly choppy, or if I'm doing robot man movements when I wiggle my head about. Anyways, if you look at it strictly from a capitalist perspective, all of these things are really bad, but only because of how it impacts like global bottom lines and individual billionaires. If you're one of the people who, one of the 4, or the 1 in 4 people who has filed for unemployment, this is shitty. It's bad. And we don't want that. We want good. All of this will exacerbate the climate and social crises that we're already underway. Unemployment is good for corporatists to be. Yes, unemployment is necessary for a capitalist economy, but there's a balance, right? And I guess I didn't frame that very well, because yes, absolutely, unemployment is necessary for the success of a capitalist venture, because you need to have the ability to go, hey, Joey, if you don't want to do the job for sweet fuck all, I can hire someone who will. And that is a power that is baked into capitalism in the hands of the wealthy. And make no mistake, I know that is the case. But there is such a thing as too much unemployment, because then you're not, your population is not buying products as often, and the things that bring you the money aren't happening. So there's like a balance, but it's a balance that's always tipped in the favor of the corporation. So some countries have already used the COVID-19 crisis as an excuse to weaken environmental protections and enforcement, and frustrations over social ills like rising inequality, U.S. billionaires' combined wealth has increased during the crisis, are intensifying. So what they're doing is they're outlining that, some bad things are happening, and there are worse things on the horizon if we don't react. Left unaddressed, these crises, together with COVID-19, will deepen and leave the world even less sustainable, less equal, and more fragile. Incremental measures and ad hoc fixes will not suffice to prevent this scenario. We must build entirely new foundations for our economic and social systems. I agree. We just do not agree on where we got to go. The level of cooperation and ambition this implies is unprecedented. Kinda. But it's not some impossible dream. In fact, one silver lining of the pandemic is that it has shown how quickly we can make radical changes to our lifestyles. Almost instantly, the crisis forced businesses and individuals to abandon practices long claimed to be essential, from frequent air travel to working in an office. Likewise, populations have overwhelmingly shown a willingness to make sacrifices for the sake of healthcare and other essential workers in vulnerable populations such as the elderly. I disagree wholeheartedly because I saw a large percentage of businesses really pissed off about the fact that they weren't able to have people in the office and slathering at the fucking opportunity to the minute we can get people back. Which doesn't make sense to me because, in my mind, one of the biggest expenses corporations have is real estate, is the physical space that they require in order to have their staff working. And if you can offload that to your fucking staff and just go, well, yeah, use your home. You can work from home. You have to have an internet connection. You have to have this. You have to have that. We'll even give you a shitty laptop or whatever. Like that is a massive cost savings. But it's the whole problem of the people who are in charge have not figured out how to monitor us when we are doing, it's about control. How to monitor us and make sure we're still sweating enough for them. Now, not every job can work remotely, obviously, but I would be really hard pressed to say that they were willing to make sacrifices for the sake of healthcare and other essential workers in vulnerable populations. I would say they were begrudgingly willing to make short-term sacrifices in order to keep their staff from leaving and in order to keep their costs down in terms of staff who are getting sick are not able to be productive at their jobs at that time when they are sick. These are people who would look at a high death count and say, but we're freeing up jobs. And that is creepy. Did I skip? And many companies have stepped up to support their workers, customers, and local communities in a shift towards the kind of stakeholder capitalism to which they had previously paid lip service. They're still paying lip service to stakeholder capitalism. Stakeholder capitalism, this is one of the things in the debate that they were back and forthing about. What's a stakeholder? And essentially, we're all stakeholders. A business has to be, we're used to shareholder capitalism, wherein the whole goal of the capitalist effort is to reward the shareholder for their investment. That is, I think, the world that we currently live in. Yes, free labor is the best kind of labor. It's true. Next to child labor, because at least you're also destroying their futures. But yeah, stakeholder capitalism implies that there are other stakeholders than just the shareholder and the management team. There is your staff, but there is also your customers. There is also the people who are in the world around you who may not have anything directly to do with your business, but are impacted by the decisions you make. As someone who has worked in the energy industry my entire adult life, we have stakeholders who are not shareholders, who are not, members of the corporation or whatever, but they have, for example, homes near places where oil gets drilled, as an example. They have a stake in what we're doing. And stakeholder capitalism, in theory, if I understand it correctly, is basically an opportunity to try and elevate the voices of those people. Wow, I'm just getting like 2.3% drop frames. Whatever. Who knows what the fuck's going on? Whereas a company can organize their affairs to make as much money as possible, when labor organizes to do the same, it is recognized as the same thing. And people's right to do, wait a minute, what? Yeah, what the actual fuck? When businesses work together and do things like price fixing and stuff, they get away with it largely. And certainly it is capitalism doing a capitalism. When individuals do exactly the same things and say, we're going to set the prices of our labor, we're going to, do whatever in terms of protecting our interests, well, that's a filthy communism, and those people need to be rooted out and put against a wall to shoot at. That's how capitalism do. Clearly, the will to build a better society does exist. It does, just not in the World Economic Forum. We must use it to secure the Great Reset that we so badly need. That will require stronger and more effective governments, though this does not imply an ideological push for bigger ones, and it will demand private sector engagement every step of the way. I love this concept because what they're saying in this paragraph, they're giving the game away. Stronger and more effective governments is not something that I'm a big fan of. More effective, sure. Stronger, it depends on your usage of the term, right? Are we talking about stronger in terms of a better foundation of access to expertise? Are we talking about more ability to adversely dominate the populations when it is deemed to be appropriate? Because that's what a lot of people think that COVID was, or at least the reactions to COVID was. And I would be opposed to these kinds of things. It will require stronger and more reliable leadership, not governments. Yes, and I would say leadership from private sector, from public sector, and from individuals. Leadership that serves, not exploits. Well, that's not very liberal of you now, is it? We must use it to secure the stronger, more effective governments, and we'll demand private. Okay, yeah. The Great Reset agenda would have three main components. The first would steer the market towards fairer outcomes. I don't think that's true. To this end, governments should improve coordination, for example, in tax, regulatory, and fiscal policy, upgrade trade agreements, and create the conditions for a stakeholder economy. Except that those things are completely unrelated, right? Improve coordination, for example, in tax, regulatory, and fiscal policy. That's just pure economics. And then talking about upgrading trade arrangements. Well, okay, we have trade arrangements. Why would we, why is the upgrading of trade arrangements a thing? Maybe I'm just not getting it. And then we have creating the conditions for a stakeholder economy. What are those conditions? Is it a universal basic income? Is it allowing the voices of people who are impacted negatively by climate change to have real sway in a society? I don't think it is. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck, I'm tired. Dear Jim, I must leave. It's been a slice as usual. Later, man. Oh, always a pleasure. I am Canadian. Enjoy. Feel less tired. Get them sleeps or whatever you need to do, my friend. And we will see you again, I'm sure. All right. To this end, governments should improve coordination, blah, blah, blah. At a time of diminishing tax bases and soaring public debt, governments have a powerful incentive to pursue such action. And this is really, again, what it comes down to. This is capitalist, democratic, liberal-minded stuff where they're saying our system has a problem because we have diminishing tax bases and we have increasing public debt, and we have to solve those problems. It's not about we have to make the world better for people. It's about how do we unfuck our profit margins? And I don't like that. I'm not a fan. Moreover, governments should implement long overdue reforms to promote more equitable outcomes. See, that comes later. Depending on the country, these may include changes to wealth taxes, the withdrawal of fossil fuel subsidies, and new rules governing intellectual property, trade, and competition. Again, all business talk. The second component of the Great Reset agenda would be ensure that investments advance shared goals such as equality and sustainability. Hey, I hear the large-scale spending programs that many governments are implementing represent a major opportunity for progress. The European Commission, for one, has unveiled plans for a €750 billion recovery fund. The US, China, and Japan also have ambitious economic stimulus plans. Cool. I'm glad people have plans and that we're going to really worry about equality and sustainability without actually, providing any kind of a prescriptive answer as to what that looks like. We're just going to have money available for recovery. I support the idea that money needs to be available for recovery. I just really dismiss the way that the people who make up the World Economic Forum think recovery is. Rather than using these funds as well as investments from private entities and pension funds to fill cracks in the old system, we should use them to create a new one that is more resilient, equitable, and sustainable in the long run. This means, for example, building green urban infrastructure and creating incentives for industries to improve their track record on environmental, social, and governance metrics. Okay.
we need to do these things, but these are not the problem that we're facing, right? A lack of green urban infrastructure is a problem, and it's a bad problem, and it's one that we need to be aware of and we need to fix, but it ain't the whole meal deal. And I don't get why that's the second most important thing. The third and final priority of a Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the fourth industrial revolution to support public good, especially by addressing health and social challenges. During the COVID-19 crisis, companies, universities, and others have joined forces to develop diagnostics, therapeutics, and possible vaccines, establishing testing centers, create mechanisms for tracing infections, and deliver telemedicine. Imagine what could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector. All right. I think we have the gist of what they're saying that this is. Essentially, where am I? There we go. Essentially, this whole argument comes down to we had a bad little thing, a COVID-19ing that was shitty and sucked, and it caused some problems for a variety of our sectors. And we need to recognize that, you know, these kinds of changes are going to continue to happen, and we need to be able to react to them and plan to them better. Or plan for them better, sorry. And I don't disagree. But things like climate change. Climate change is like a necessary end result of the capitalist mind frame as it is in 21st century world. We are going to rely on fossil fuels because that's how we've done it. And it costs money to innovate and change and go in different directions. So we're not going to do that, right? If we do that, it has to be at the government level because it turns out the Koch brothers ain't going to do shit for us, you know, even if they were both alive. Those kinds of systemic changes require a state-ish, however you want to organize it, making hopefully the right decisions for a population, and you know, providing the foundations of resources and you know, funding and all that kind of jibber jabber to get to where it needs to be. And this is heretical communism in the ears of many people who are, you know, deep on capitalism's wang. I get that. I get that a lot of people will associate the things I just said with like true heresy. I just don't care. All right, I'm going to take pause. When I come back, we'll probably finish off some Great Reset chat. But in the meantime, I will leave you with some beautiful, beautiful backdrop music. And I shall return forthwith, shortishly, and all that. Okay, I'm back. And thank you, Nate. I did. All right. So, I guess my take on the whole Great Reset is I agree we have to make large systemic changes. I think the changes that the World Economic Forum are suggesting are not those. In some cases they are. But it's always with a democratic capitalist sort of agenda in mind. I do agree that COVID-19 highlighted some pretty significant problems with our way that we organize our society and with the systems that we have within it. I live in the province of Alberta, and in Alberta we have a very, very right-wing lean. This is just the world that I live in. And we are constantly worried about the steps that the conservatives will do in the next little while, which never ends, to privatize healthcare, to privatize access to education, to privatize every fucking thing they can possibly privatize, because that's what they think is just smart. I am opposed to this. This is, in my opinion, stupid as fuck. What we need, in my opinion, is the opposite of that. We need to start to implement more socialist policies and more socialist organization. What do I mean when I say that? Do I mean we should become Soviet Russia? Absolutely not. I don't think of Soviet Russia as a particularly good end goal. Nor do I think of China as a particularly good end goal. I personally think that we need to do things like publicizing, making public a lot of corporations, and better leveraging the income that those corporations get away from shareholder growth and towards social growth and improvements in the overall societies that we live in. Things like an implementation of a universal basic healthcare, universal basic income, universal healthcare, universal dental, things that actively promote a leveling of the playing field, because the invisible hand ain't fucking doing it and ain't gonna fucking do it. These are just facts. I shudder to think of the fact that this is the world that they want. The world that they want is one where lots and lots of people go without, but mostly the economy is going to be all right. I don't care about the economy. I care about it in terms of it being a concept that sort of loosely defines how successful or what have you a society is doing. But the concept of worrying about the economy is kind of foolish. We should be worrying about the people, and the economy should be a tool towards that. We need to get away from oil and gas. That is the thing. That is a thing that will require transition and time and a great deal of investment. Things like the Green New Deal, which people will get all freaky-deaky about. Fine, get freaky-deaky about it. What it boils down to is oil is a finite resource. We will run out of it. As it runs out, it will become more and more expensive and more damaging to get access to. Forget about all of the negative, harmful emission shit. Like, imagine if we created a thing that would just make global warming not a thing. Fine, we're still out of fucking oil, or running low. We have to have a plan for that, and we're not doing that. Right? We talk about alternative accesses to energy sources. We talk about a variety of alternative options, but we're not heavily funding and we're not heavily supporting those innovations. Not to the tune that we need to be. And we need to be investing in redesigning an economy around supporting all people. We need to be redesigning our economy around making that transition. And we need to be designing a world where we can do things like reducing crime, reducing poverty, reducing general threats to the well-being of people. These are good things.
I don't know why people have a hard time with that, but apparently they do. Watching our social system get continually messed with to eventually force privatization is depressing. Yeah, and I mean, like, it's so fucking transparent, right? The Klein government slashed the fuck out of every single budget, and then we're like, why are healthcare systems so fucking lame, man? You know, wait times, holy shit. You know, that's the thing. Every time you hear people talk about Canada's universal healthcare, they go, yeah, but like the wait times. Yeah, we have big wait times because we're not funding it properly. We're actively and intentionally unfunding it to weaken it so that we can use the argument that it would just be better if it was private, because private business is always way more efficient, which is not true and silly. We have to get away from that mentality. To me, that's the great reset that we need. Some of the things that they talk about are good plans and good economic policies and things like that, and I get that, and I'm fine with it. Most of the fear around this great reset is around the hyperbole of the people who talk about it, and around dismissing, and I think reasonably dismissing, the utopian nature of the end goal, right? That's one of the things that I have always struggled with. Is the first words that I learned that sort of fit what I would love the world to be was utopian socialist. And that is a great end goal that is impossible to hit, probably. I don't believe in utopian systems. I believe in practical realities. I believe in within that reality and in that framework, building as much liberty and as much freedom and as much opportunity as we can for as many people. This does not mean capitalism. This means implementing social programs that will benefit the vast majority of people, while giving people the ability to still live good, meaningful lives and happy lives and full lives. Do I believe in a world where, you know, everyone just sits at home and paints, and that somehow the world is okay? No, that's not a real world. It's silly. And it's not a world that people would, most people wouldn't want to be a stay-at-home painter. We can still have a good world that supports people and ensures that no one gets left behind, and that no one gets forgotten, and that no one gets the shit end of the stick, while accepting that, it can't be a perfect world, and we have to, live within the confines of what the world gives us. In a perfect world, there would have been no COVID-19. But there was a COVID-19. We had to react to it. We had to react to it as best as we could, and hopefully protect as many people as possible. What ends up happening? Not as many people died as some people apparently wanted, so therefore the whole thing was a big silly bollocks. No. We did the right thing. We blocked the punch coming in, even though we weren't sure how strong it was going to be. You blocked the punch because you don't want to get hit. It's bad to get hit. Anyways, enough on the Great Reset. The other thing I wanted to talk about was relationship stuff. I want to frame this appropriately. At my core, fucking table, god damn it. At my core, I am a relationship anarchist. What does that mean? It's not anarchy in relationships, really, at least in the way that most people frame the concept of anarchy. Relationship anarchism is essentially a non-hierarchical, or hopefully non-hierarchical view of, oh boy, you're gonna like this. You just brace yourself, Nate. A non-hierarchical, or as little hierarchy as is humanly possible, view of relationships. Relationships that it talks about are not just romantic relationships, but all of our relationships. There is some need for a certain amount of hierarchy in some cases. For example, the relationship of a parent to a child, it has to be more important than a parent to his buddy Joe. But we should strive to treat every relationship independently and uniquely, and allow it to be what it is and what it should be. I think that's the best answer.
And I wanted that sort of concept in mind because some of the stuff that I'll wind up talking about relates not just to romantic relationships or physical relationships, but also to friendship relationships or parent-child relationships or what have you. The concept of this in my little noodle came from watching a lot of people commenting on Vosh saying that we need to care about the lonely male. A lot of people have a negative and hostile reaction to that, and I get that. But the reality is that lonely males are people who are suffering, probably needlessly, for reasons that are probably within their ability to resolve if given the appropriate information. And because the left doesn't do a lot of talking about this, the right does. And you get Andrew Tate as a role model. You get all sorts of channels that are designed to speak to those young men and ultimately are just part of that right-wing pipeline. And I think that as lefties, we probably ought to have these conversations too. Because I think our perspectives are going to be quite different than the right-wing perspectives. So let's, the thing that I thought I'd talk about is conflict in relationships. How do you deal with it? What is it? All that kind of stuff. Well, I don't think I need to explain what it is. All relationships have conflict. Because we are human and we fuck up and we misunderstand and we do stupid things and lifes. So how do we react to these? That's an important thing. The Andrew Tates of the world will tell you some advice that I think is probably not very good for you. And this is on my mind because I had a conflict in my relationship with my girlfriend over the last few days. It was a moment of conflict that we resolved, and I thought it would probably be a good example, not to be like, ugh, I'm so good at things, because I'm not. I'm human, but it does speak to the issue. So I'm not going to go into the details of what the conflict was. Feels like the left talks a lot about that, but has no clue what to do except for self-help, and self-help is going to hit better if you put young men in the entitled chosen ones who get robbed by your cabal of choice. I definitely agree, and I think that's kind of the problem that I want to focus on is the mind frame that is presented to people who are lonely males is I feel like the left is pretty quick to be like, suck it up and get better. You have toxic masculinity. You have, these traits that you're doing wrong. You're an abuser. You're blah, 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 blah. All of which may be true, but which don't sort of solve the problem. And when presented with that, and then there's the other side going, nah, man, bitches, right? It's easy to imagine what direction people wind up going in terms of like a regular human being going, well, I don't want to get yelled at anymore. I feel lonely, and these guys are telling me it's someone else's fault, and I like that. Oh, and also, globalists are coming to, take your guns and rape your wife. And that's why I think it's worth having reasonable conversations. So, first things first, there was a conflict. r/men's lib is the only place I've seen that goes to genuinely interesting directions. I'm not a Reddit guy, so I've never read r/men's lib. I see a lot of, there used to be a guy named Ali Fogg that I read. He had a blog called Heteronormative Patriarchy for Men, or for boys, men, I don't remember which. But he was, he would describe himself as a men's rights activist and then be like, and I hate that I use that term, because men's rights activism is so closely associated with exactly the things I don't believe in, domination and whining about conditions that are not worth whining about and all that other shit, and fosters this divisive conversation where Ali Fogg was like, I am a feminist, absolutely. I believe that an egalitarian movement is the exact right thing that we need and all that stuff. I used to quite enjoy reading his. I haven't read anything from him in ages. I don't know if he's alive or if he, changed or whatever. But in the beginning, I quite enjoyed his stuff, and he would do things like look at. He's British, so he would look at reports from British Social Services that talks about child welfare outcomes and things like that, and then go, we tend to focus on the impacts to women and girls in these things, but let's also look at the data from a men and boys perspective and say there are things that we need to do better, in that regard. And I quite enjoyed those because they were not like dismissive of the women and girls perspective. It was simply like, there's another thing that we need to look at. Let's not lose that in our conversation. So yeah, I definitely agree. And I'll have to check out r/men's lib because I do think that there's a lot of wisdom to be had. And unfortunately, I feel like the majority of it that gets put out there is, reinforces a lot of toxicity. And that's definitely not what I want to do, right? So, have me a conflict. The particulars of the conflict, unimportant, but I recognize that my partner was not happy, and that likely there was an undercurrent there, that there was something wrong that we needed to talk about. So, grabbed some time, sat down, and had a conversation. That's a big thing. Had a conversation, rather than, and it wasn't about showing her that I was right, and it wasn't about making her sort of understand that well, but also, and you have to see it from my perspective or anything like that. It was, I needed a conversation with them in order to understand what their concern was and where it was coming from. So that means that I had to listen, as much as I also had to, to be engaged in conversation. Listening is not something that is necessarily easy for men. Certainly, we have a society in general that teaches us to talk over people, teaches us that interrupting is important when we want to do it and really annoying when other people do it to us, all sorts of stuff. So I took the time and I listened. And they outlined a few things that were on their mind. And in some cases, they were absolutely right. And I had to hear that in order for me to get that, okay, there were things that they were absolutely right about that I have done poorly or communicated poorly or what have you. And I had to think about, okay, how can I resolve this by making changes in my universe? In some cases, there were things that I felt were not necessarily correct. But when you encounter something where someone says, like, you did this, and you go, well, that's not really what I did, or maybe you're seeing it from a different perspective or whatever, the key there is to stop and be like, why is it that they have this impression of things? Why do I have my impression of things? Is it possible that my impression is wrong? Is it possible that their impression, which I think is wrong and which we're going to, take the assumption that it's wrong, but where does it come from? Because it's probably, like, if you're with someone who you like and you get along and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty likely that they're not just insane. And if they have taken something that you've done in the wrong context, there might be some other reasons around that are worth paying attention to. And so in those scenarios where I was like, oh, I don't think that that's what I had done, I had to look at my own behavior and say, what is it that has made them draw this conclusion from the thing that I did or said or whatever? And, and obviously there's also scenarios where the other person just, didn't understand or whatever, or where I communicated something poorly or whatever. But there were things where I was like, that doesn't line up with how I see it. Why? And I think that's something that we don't do enough of. And I don't mean men, I mean people. I find that the sort of the go-to answer in a conflict is to prove that you're right. And what I'm talking about is being open to the possibility that you're wrong and that they can be wrong perhaps, but also that highlights an area in which you are also wrong and can improve. Self-introspection, yeah, we don't do that. That's not a thing that we do as a society. I think that it's really an important thing to practice and to consider. So in this case, like, one of the things that came up, for example, and I'm not going to give the details, but there was an interpretation on some of the things that I had done and some of the things that that had sort of rubbed the other person the wrong way. Not greatly rubbed them the wrong way, but had rubbed them the wrong way. And I looked at it and I was like, but that's not what I did. And if that's where it stops, then I go, well, you're wrong and I'm right. And either they suck it up and go, that Jim sure was right and I was wrong. Or they go, well, I disagree and fuck you, and nothing is resolved. So instead what I did was I listened to what they were describing, and I thought about it, and I was like, okay, how is it that they could create this sort of interpretation on the things that I had done? And I thought about that, and I was like, okay, there are things there. So first off, there was some truth to the things, and I could understand why those would be annoying, and that my reaction to those things could have, on individual levels, presented a larger image that isn't in keeping with like who I am and how I do. But how is it that they would have got there? Well, there's things that I've done that lead in that direction. Okay, I can work on those things. And so what I did instead was I didn't say, well, you're wrong, here's the answer. I said, I can see how it came across that way, totally. And that doesn't line up with how I view things, but I get that you're not just making this up. So there's things for me here. There's ideas that I probably need to, pay some attention to. There's stuff that I can do better that, we recognize patterns all the time, right? And when especially in a relationship, when you see three things, and those are the three things that annoy you, you can focus on those a little bit. And maybe you miss in thinking about those three things. Maybe they're not as related as you think they are, or maybe they are as related as you think you are, but they're not leading in the direction that you think they have, or whatever. But they're still real, and you can say, okay, I need to deal with how I reacted to these three things and the situations like them. And make sure that doesn't paint the broader picture, which is the more untrue thing. Establishing a pattern that isn't really a pattern, right? Our brains do this. We grew up in, as a species, we grew up in environments where there were threats around us. And so if you see a bush that's shaking, your brain goes, well, it could be a delicious yum yum rabbit, or it could be a very, very mean tiger. And evolutionarily, we are well advised to not go, barreling into that bush and find out if it's the tiger or the rabbit. Because the rabbit may be delicious, but the tiger will kill us. We establish these patterns for reasons of self-protection, and we see them all the time. You can look at a roof that is, what do they call that? The clumpy white roofing. I can't remember what they call it. You look at it, and you'll see like faces and shapes and stuff, or clouds. You can do the same thing with, because our brain tries to make order out of chaos. And if we look at a situation like this, where there were several unrelated things that all could be viewed as part of a bigger pattern, well, the problem I had was the person saying, well, the pattern is concerning. And I was like, but the pattern isn't me. But the more I thought about it, the more I was like, the individual moments there paint a picture that does sort of support that pattern. That's not, the pattern isn't accurate, but there are things there that I can do better and that I can fix. And likewise, the other person was doing the same thing, where they were able to look at their own behavior and be like, hey, there's things that I'm doing that are creating, these issues or whatever. It was two people having a normal, healthy conflict. The right answer is talk it through, figure out where it's coming from, not trying to win, not trying to outdo the other person, but just the two of us trying to understand and hear each other and be like, okay, there's things there I can do better. And there's things there that I hope you're going to do better. Time will tell, but that's the game here. We want to have this thing work out. We want to have it be happy and healthy and positive and stuff. And also individually, we want to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. Not just act like the best versions, but be the best versions. So we do the listening, and we recognize when someone tells you, hey, this thing you did, there's probably wisdom to be had in there. Even if it isn't what they thought, there's still probably reasons why they ended up thinking that. Just something to consider. The thing that bothers me about discussions on men's issues in both centrist and leftist spaces is that a lot of the time it mostly focuses on how to de-radicalize Channer edgelords. I don't know if I've ever heard Channer edgelords before, but I'm old and I don't know things. Which in the end just rewards and puts on a pedestal toxic masculinity in a different way, because those behaviors are usually just a cry for attention. I don't in any way disagree with that, actually. I feel like that idea of we have to help these poor souls so that they don't go on killing sprees, and then we will reward them for, the basics of good behavior, I think is pretty stupid. But I think it's probably an important thing to have conversations about reasonably non-toxic ways to interact with one another and how to manage some of these things. Like, so, it's one thing for, I find that a lot of the time when I see content like this, it's like, well, why are men lonely? Well, you don't have to be a lonely guy. You can join a book club or whatever. And maybe you'll meet a lady and that lady will be super nice to you. And it'll, you have this thing that you can talk about. And that is all true. But I don't think that it resolves the problem. In my mind, the problem is the toxicity. The problem is the idea that I, a lonely guy, am owed someone's behavior in the positive towards me, and that they had best be, stepping up their game and learning to love me, or the system doesn't work. And that's not the case. I think the most important thing that we need to do when we are lonely is look at our shit and try and figure out what we are doing wrong. There is nothing wrong with fucking up. I do it all the time. There's everything wrong with fucking up and looking for someone else to blame. Nothing is ever perfect. And, relationships fail, people get sad, all of these things are real. But how we react to those, we can only control how we react in and of our own minds and bodies. I think it's really important that we recognize that, because the easiest thing to do is a thing that we've always done. So when I was married, for example, my reaction to conflict was usually to shut down. I was in a relationship that had a reasonable amount of conflict, and in my opinion, some of that conflict was maybe unnecessary. I'm trying to be very politic here. The person I was with did not have a whole lot of respect or love for me. And so I was regularly sort of browbeaten for any number of things. And what that ended up doing was making me shut down, being like, okay, yep, we're having this conversation again. And I did not listen when, there were probably some very important, valuable things. Now, realistically, it was a bad relationship I should not have been in, and neither should the other person. But we were there, and my habit of shutting down was a protective mechanism, absolutely. When that relationship ended and I moved into new relationships, when presented with very valid criticisms of things that I had done or said or whatever, my brain went to the usual habit of shutting down. Let them get out what they need to get out. Try and pick up on the gist of what their complaint is and see if you can, do things to avoid it in the future. But it's a very negative and very ineffective approach to the problem. So I had to figure out that, like, listening ears are good ears, and that having conversations with people and engaging in those conversations in an effective way was actually how you would, resolve these kinds of conflicts. And this is true, sort of, we all have patterns. That's human. One of the people that I had a long-term relationship with, I remember we had a conflict of some kind, and to this day I don't remember what it was, but it was nothing major. We were having a conversation, and the other person was obviously becoming agitated, and I was trying to sort of gear that down a little bit through the conversation, and eventually, like, they exploded and they shoved a thing, not me, don't worry. They shoved like a thing of dishes that was nearby onto the ground. And this was like, what the fuck? What just happened? Why would you, like, I'm not raising my voice. I'm not, furrowing my brow, or like, there's nothing, like, we're just having a conversation. And it was a fairly new relationship at the time. And what I would come to understand is that their history was one where even those minor conflicts resulted in violence. And they had hit a point where they were like, I'm not taking that shit from anybody ever again, which I 100% endorse and agree with. And they just, this was the sort of ritualistic habit for them of, when there's conflict, I'm fucking ready. You do not get to lay a hand on me. And obviously my own history was like, what? And so we had to have a conversation, and I had to, like, okay, hang on. Like, I'm not gonna touch you, and you don't have to believe me for saying these things. What I would hope is that in time you will come to believe me for not doing that thing. Like, if we have conflict, in my mind, the way to resolve it is through conversation, and is through both of us taking the bits and pieces that are, or hopefully being able to discern what the conflict is about and what things we can individually do differently. I can't make you do things differently, but I can make me do things differently, and I can try really hard to do better. And I think that's a healthy decision. Oh, hey, I have a Rebel Eyes 420 is now following. Welcome, Rebel Eyes 420. I have blue eyes, so I don't know why I said that. I don't know. It seemed a thing. Whatever. No hope for the nay. We aren't owed anyone. It's on us to work on ourselves, learn to love ourselves as people. How can we properly love someone else if we can't recognize our faults and take the time to listen and reflect? And how do we become like the person that we want to be if we have things that we do, probably unconsciously, that get in the way of that, right? The only way for sort of to do better is to confront and accept that, we have flaws and limitations, and we're just regular folk, and that we can learn lessons along the way. Nothing wrong with that at all. I totally agree, especially the we aren't owed anyone thing. When I was a kid, 17 years old, I was definitely, a lot of the thoughts that I had, because I was a weird looking strange little lad, I had a lot of those like thoughts that were in line with sort of that incel community concept of like, women only like jerks and all of those kinds of things. And I got through them by sort of recognizing that they were wrong and dumb and all that kind of stuff, and that was good. But we live in a world that wants a quick fix all the time and wants, if there's conflict, there has to be a winner and a loser and all these kinds of things. And I don't think that is reasonable. I think that those are incorrect assessments of the world around us. So in the example I gave, the person said, I have a concern that this is the behavior that I'm seeing. And I was like, well, that's not the behavior that I do. But I get why you could see that pattern because of this piece and this piece and this piece. And those are things that I can do those better. I can absolutely make that change and thus improve things and remove that fear from you. And cool. I don't want people to think, when I'm in a relationship with somebody, I don't want them to have fears or whatever. I want them to have joy and happiness and blah, 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 all the good things. And so if there's things that I'm doing that are not leading in that direction, I should do them better, or at least try to and recognize them. This is the thing that I think our society is so quick to do is just, and especially like the Andrew Tate type of philosophy is like, just dominate the other person. Well, that doesn't help anything, right? Yes, if I wanted, I'm a big, strong fella. I could beat the shit out of a lot of people. Probably not Andrew Tate because he's a kickbox ninja. Although right now he's a prison kickbox ninja. So hope you're having fun, Andrew. In a relationship with a regular human being, I could probably do a lot of things to dominate the other person and control them and stuff. This is not who I want to be, and not who I'm sort of, in my core wired to be. So there has to be other answers, and the other answers are way cooler, right? I want to do better always when it comes to being in a relationship and being with someone that I respect and care for. I want to always do whatever I can to improve at making them feel special and awesome and all the things. And doing so in a way that doesn't harm me and lower me, right? Because that's not beneficial to anybody either, right? And the beauty of the system is, if you listen and you understand, you can decide where is the sensible area for, like, I should do this or I should do that or I should listen here or I should change this or whatever. Like that's all doable. And my default has always been to shut down. I came from a home where everyone was loud and I was quiet and everyone was big and I was little, and shutting down was like the easiest way to deal with things. When I went into school, what I learned was humor as a mechanism, especially self-deprecating humor, as a mechanism to remove threats, right? So both of those are coping mechanisms that make sense, but they're not good long-term strategies. I took on the role of self-deprecating to the point where, I still call myself Big Ugly Jim, but I am not benefited by this. It doesn't make my world better. And I had to start questioning the negative self-talk that I did. I had to start questioning how quickly I was to throw myself under the bus for a laugh, because those are not actually attractive qualities in a human being. And it's things like that. We have all got patterns, and we have to do better than that. And the only way to do better than them is to see them, recognize them for what they are, and determine how we can improve on them. Right? Toxic masculinity is absolutely a real thing, 100%. The only way that we can improve is to call it out and to be like, ooh, these things are toxic. That doesn't mean all of masculinity is toxic, and I hate when people do that. That's just a bad rebuttal. That's trying to be right rather than trying to learn what the other person is saying. So when someone says toxic masculinity and they say, well, what about this and this and this and this and this, those probably are things that we can either individually or societally work on fixing. But when we don't, we maintain the system. If we shut down and don't listen when someone says this is a bad thing we should not be doing, we don't grow. The whole point of like our entire lives should be to grow and become the best thing that we can be, whatever that is. For me, that's what I try and do. And I think it's good. I think it's necessary. I think it's strongly positive. And it benefits myself, my life, and the people around me. And I like the people around me. I've chosen them for reasons. And they've chosen me for reasons. And all I can do is just keep giving them more reasons and keep, doing what I can to make sure that I'm not giving them the other kind of reasons. Now, again, that doesn't mean selling myself out. If somebody, for example, wants, a partner that they can use as an ashtray, like physically want to put cigarettes out on, I don't have to be like, well, what is it about me that makes them want to put cigarettes out on me? I can be like, this is a person that, no, this is not working for me. Assuming I'm not into people putting cigarettes out on me. And there's a lot of skin currently showing, which tells you that that's probably not the case, right? I can still advocate for myself. I can still take umbrage with what a person says or thinks or does. But I probably ought to, leave that situation. And knowing where the difference lies is pretty important, right? If you can't tell the difference between somebody having legitimate criticisms, even if they're not 100% how you would interpret the situation, if you can't tell the difference between that and someone physically putting a cigarette on you, you're going to be alone a long time. Growth is hard and good and important. And whether or not the person that you're with is the one that you want to stay with for forever or not, or the 30 people you're with or the people you want to stay, like, I don't fucking care. Always do the best by you. There's that stupid cheeseball thing that people, the only person you have to look at in the bathroom mirror every morning is yourself. But it's true. And I want to look at the best version of myself. You ever read the book, The Picture of Dorian, or the short story, The Picture of Dorian Gray? It's Oscar Wilde, and there's this young and beautiful man who a painting is done of Dorian Gray, and Dorian Gray remains young, youthful, vibrant, well past the point where he should, and youthful and vibrant, yes. But he is engaged in all of the vices, and he is a fairly terrible person, and he does cruel things for the joy of cruelty and all of this stuff. And people wonder how he maintains his youth. And then one day someone discovers that the picture of Dorian Gray, the picture has aged and has become ugly and gnarled and hideous and is a direct reflection of the person of Dorian Gray. Why the fuck did I bring that up? I don't know. It's a good book. Read it. Good story. Sometimes my non sequiturs non sequit. I'm fairly certain it related to something I was talking about, but I guess what I was trying to say is it's way better to do the opposite of that. To work on being the best version of yourself, because whatever physical shit face. Maybe we're not handsome, maybe we're overweight, maybe we're underweight, maybe we're, large smear of red, like, who fucking cares? Like, whatever it is, those things are all physical traits, and most of the time, people don't really give a shit about them. That was a huge lesson for me when I left my marriage, and I was worried that, I was much more overweight than I am now. And I was like, no one's ever going to love me because I'm big and fat and gross. Part of that whole self-deprecating thing. And there was very little in the way of, here's how I will resolve this. It was more of this, but this is what I am, so it sucks, and that's my life. And I met a girl who had no problems with how I looked, and we ended up taking pants off together, and her reaction was not total revulsion, and I was like, whoa, maybe I'm wrong about all of this stuff. Maybe there's still hope for me and all these kinds of things. Like, it sounds stupid, but we get, it's easy to get into a place where you don't think things are within your power to resolve. And they are. They always are. Some things, physical things, may not be, but they're probably not as important as the other aspects of yourself. Because that's what a pretty face can be the thing that attracts a person. But being awesome is kind of what makes people want to be around you. Now, I'm obviously not talking about I can't think of like the pickup artist game or whatever, because I don't want to talk about that, because I don't want to be that person. I've never had any desire to be that person. What I like instead is just being a good person and being awesome and having people that are like, hey, that Jim, he sure is pretty awesome. Kind of like to hang out with him some more, whatever that looks like. And again, all of the stuff that I've talked about is true for any relationship, not just romantic relationships. When we have conflict with friends, what do? Do we want to be right, or do we want to be better? It's a good way to alienate yourself from your friends, to just decide that anytime they bring up what in their opinion is a reasonable critique of characteristics, that your job is to prove them wrong and shoot them down and show them that they're wrong. Well, maybe they are, but maybe there's more to it. Maybe they're drawing that conclusion because of a series of things that have become a pattern to them that maybe isn't the pattern isn't accurate, but the things are still things, and they're things that you can probably go, oh, you know what, I did handle that poorly. Oh, you know what, I could probably, do X better or whatever. Like, that's cool shit. That makes your life better, and it improves the relationship, and it helps you understand what the person is looking for out of that particular relationship, right? It's just good. It's just good. All right, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to go do the thing that I do with the putting nicotine in my system, because apparently I'm still an idiot. And when I come back, we'll do some karaoke. Does that sound like fun? Yeah, it does. I only have a couple songs pre-selected. Only one when I started the stream, and then I Am Canadian was. I made a snide comment about. Hang on, I'm gonna get this thing off my face real quick. I made a snide comment about the Headstones, totally in jest, and he was like, "Tweeter and the Monkey Man, you take that back." So we're gonna do some Tweeter and the Monkey Man, and also a Ghost song, because I have sang quite a few Ghost songs on here. But if you would like to hear me sing things, just put them in there, and I will make the singy flappy noises, and it'll be fun, and we'll all grow as people. Sounds good. I will leave you with awful music of Muzak nature. BRB.
YWTM returned. And just in time for karaoke. Oop, wrong tab. There we go. Stop the music. Hey, James Bond. Apologize for being tardy. Oh, hardly a thing. I'm just always happy you're here, my friend. Karaoke. Well, Nate, I imagine you're not listening anymore, but I wish you very well in the basketballing and the surviving the basketballing, and hopefully you will not be in too much pain. Nate is doing a 3-game basketball tournament that they do every year for the basketball team that he used to play on, I think in high school, as a fundraiser, and I think that's awesome. And he was like, "Oh my God, I am so out of shape," which, relatable content. All right, karaoke. Our weekly humiliations, wherein your favorite gym, or potentially one of your favorite gyms, gets to do karaoke and feel like that's a thing that was in some way worth doing. So, we're going to do karaoke. If you have requests in there, I will sing most things. This is Tweeter and the Monkey Man by the Headstones. For I am Canadian, who's not here right now. Tweeter and the Monkey Man were hard up for cash. They stayed up all night selling cocaine and hash to an undercover cop who had a sister named Jan. For reasons unexplained, she loved the Monkey Man. Tweeter was a Boy Scout, or he went to Vietnam. Found out the hard way, nobody gives a damn. Thought they'd find the freedom just across the Jersey line. Hopped into a stolen car, took Highway 99 when the walls came down. All the way to hell. Never saw them when they standing, never saw them when they fell. It's a little low. The undercover cop never liked the Monkey Man. Even back in high school, wanted to see him in the can. Jan got married at 14 to a racketeer named Bill. Made secret plans with the Monkey Man for a mansion on the hill. It was out on the road, Tweeter at the wheel. Pulled into paradise, you hear the tires squeal. Jamie told him many times it was you and me at the top. In Kingston, everything's legal, man, as long as you don't get caught. The walls came down, all the way to hell. Never saw them when they're standing, never saw them when they fell. This my raw white prison, they ran out of gas. The undercover cop cornered him, said he didn't think this would last. Jan jumped out of bed, said there's someplace I gotta go. She took the gun out of the drawer, said it's best that you don't know. An ambulance rolled up, stayed super close behind. Tweeter took his gun away and messed up his mind. The undercover cop was found face down in a field. The Monkey Man was on the brink of losing Tweeter as a shield when the walls came down, all the way to hell. Never saw them when they're standing, never saw them when they fell. I have to fix my pants, they're low. Sorry for the crotch shot. Sound of Jersey City is quieting down again. I'm sitting in a gambling club called the Lion's Den. The TV set is blown up, every bit of it is gone. But since the night when they showed that the Monkey Man was on, maybe I'll go to Florida, get myself some sun. Ain't no more opportunity here when everything's been done. Sometimes I think of Tweeter, sometimes I think of Jan. Sometimes I don't think about nothing but the Monkey Man. The walls came down, all the way to hell. Never saw them when they're standing, never saw them when they fell. Alright, those are the headstones. And now we'll do Kiss the Go-Go. A little bit Ghost, because I like Ghost. This one I've never actually tried to sing, so we'll find out if I can sing it. Hey baby, kiss the go. Whoa, kiss, kiss, kiss the go-go. You've been playing around with magic that is blind, but all the powerful magical mysteries never gave a single thing back. I don't know if I know the tune. You've been daddied by all the dudes that want a dad, and all those dads never gave you things that you should have had. It ain't always what it seems when you cling on to a dream. It ain't always there to please you, but he's the guy you want to do, and you know that it takes two. Luckily he wants to do you too. Satan, Lucifer, Osculum, baby, kiss the go. Oh, kiss, kiss, kiss the go-go. Hey baby, hey, kiss the go. Oh, kiss, kiss, kiss the go-go. It ain't always what it seems. That glitter wasn't gold as opposed to what they told you, but he's the guy you wanna do, and you know that it takes two. Luckily he wants to do you too. Satan, Lucifer, Osculum, Obscenum. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, you can be sorry. No. It ain't always what it seems when you cling on to a dream. It ain't always there to please you, but he's the guy you want to do, and you know that it takes two. Luckily he wants to do you too. Satan, Lucifer, Osculum, Obscenum. Into their space, so I'm just gonna think of a song I want to sing karaoke. Let's see. No, that was supposed to be Cat song. We're gonna stop that because I don't want to do the same song twice. Let's see. I haven't done. You know what? I want to do "Die for Your Government." Little anti-flag. Little punk rock. Oh, it's not going to give me a note, is it? You gotta die, gotta die, gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die, gotta die, gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. No counting, no nothing, just yes. Slow cold death, and the government says we don't know the source of the sickness, but you'll believe what they say because your government is lying.
They've done it before, and don't you know they'll do it again. A secret test, government built virus, subject as group, government. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit.
I don't know this song very well.
First World War back and slaughtered by General Eisenhower. They give them your life, they give you a stab in the back. Radiation, Agent Orange, tested on U.S. souls, guinea pigs for Western corporations. I never have, I never will. Allegiance to the fight, you get you'll end up dead. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. I don't need you to tell me what to do, and I don't need you to tell me what to be. Fuck you! You don't need you to tell me what to say, and I don't need you to tell me what to think. What to think, what to think, think what to think. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit. You gotta die for your government, die for your country, that shit.
Alright. Ice, Ice, Baby. Karaoke. This can only go poorly. Thank you, James. Have I done this before? This is gonna be awful. Yo, VIP, let's kick it. Alright, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. Do the extreme like a complete web vandal. It's like, fuck. Dance, bump rush, speaker booms. Kill your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly when I play a dope melody. Anything less than the best is a felony. Never leave it, you better gain weight. You better hit bullseye, the kid don't play. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my teacher revolves it. Dancing is necessary. Oh, you're a terrible person, James. Terrible person. Now the party is jumping. With the bass kicked in, the Vegas are pumping. Quick to the point of no faking. Cooking MCs like a pound of bacon. Running them, they ain't quick and nimble. I go crazy when I hear a cymbal and a hi-hat and a souped up tempo. I'm on a roll and it's time to go solo. Rolling in my high 5-5-0. Shit, give a blow. Girlie's on standby, waiting just to say hi. Once this drove by, kept on pursuing. Shit, I don't know the fucking rhythm here. That blows dead to get 1A. Girls are hot, wearing less than bikinis. Rock man lovers driving Lamborghinis. Jealous, cause I'm coming through mine. Engagement, vanilla with a 9. Yeah, vanilla with a 9. Okay. Gunshots rang out like a bell. Grab a 9, I'll hurt with shells. On the concrete real fast. Jumped in my car, slammed on the gas. Bumper to bumper, the avenue's packed. I'm trying to get away before the jack is jacked. Police on the scene, you know what I mean. They passed me out, confronted all the dope fiends. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. While my teacher involves it. This is terrible.
vision I feel. Productive form is a hell of a concept. Make it hype when you want to see that with this. Plays on the blade, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade. Fast, other DJs say, damn, it was a drug. Magnetize the mic when I kick my juice. If there was a problem, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while the DJ involves it. There are so many better rappers. Even back then, there were so many better rappers. But, you know, he was a white. I mean, there's like something stupid at the end. Alright? Yo, man, let's get out of here. Word to your mom. That was not Kara fun. That Kara sucked. Alright. Gonna do me like that. Let's look for some SNFU. Not gonna do Painful Run. Cheap Transistor Radio. Yeah, we'll do Cheap Transistor Radio. This is off of the In the Meantime and In Between Time album from seminal Canadian hardcore punk artist SNFU. With the death of Chai Pig. Makes me sad. Yo!
Cheap transistor radio underneath my pillow. I fell asleep to the hits, and I woke up with batteries dead. But it was worth it, 'cause I love music, and it's better when it's free, much like it felt back in the 70s. Cheap transistor radio. Cheap transistor radio. Cheap transistor radio. Yeah!
I'm not Chai. It's good. He's dead. He's a real weird stream.
Possibilities seemed endless as to what was what and what could be. I think that it is very important to continue that line of thinking. Come on, tell me, do you agree or do you disagree? Come on, tell me honestly. Transistor radio. Transistor radio. Transistor radio. Yeah. Transistor radio underneath my pillow. 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 Cheap transistor radio. Cheap transistor radio. A cheap transistor radio. Transistor Radio.
Wasn't there a line about, like, at the end of that where he's like, oh, I'm going to go get some Pabst Blue Ribbon? I think so. All right. That's probably the not the best choice ever. Let's see. Well, we've done some Vanilla Ice and some Headstones and some SNFU and some Ghost. What does that leave us in terms of genres? Well, we haven't done any jazz. Is there a jazz song I want to do? Autumn Leaves. Oh, Matt King Cole. The falling leaves drift by the window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. This is not in my range. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to know. Since you went away, days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter's song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. Cashmere by Zeppelin. Do I know Cashmere by Zeppelin? I should. I mean, it's fucking Zeppelin. He was not ringing any bells. We'll give it a whirl. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear winter's song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. All right. So what is that? Oh, this is like a million times not in my range. Okay, this is up. And I don't even know if I know all of the tune. I know the song, but I can never listen to it, right? Oh, let the sun beat down upon my face, the stars to fill my dreams. I am a traveler of both time and space, to be where I have been. Sit with the elders of the gentle race. This world is seldom seen. I don't know the fucking note there. Talk of days for which they sit and wait. All will be real. Aren't you glad it's not moving away? I was glad I got it. It's probably like April. 8.5. It's all good. All good kids. Sound from the top. shit.
Sounds caress my brain.
Oh fuck, I can't even think of the note. The story was quite clear. Uh-oh. I legitimately have no idea where I am in the song. I know there's an instrumental break because it's sad. Oh yeah, this is not going well. This is going as I expected. And there's like, you can almost hear in my one earphone the tune, but not enough. Yeah. I've been flying. Okay, I feel like I should switch to a different Led Zeppelin song, one that I may even know. Let's remove the word cashmere, because that was not good. Okay, you know what? I'll do Immigrant Song, which will be equally awful, but at least I know the fucking song.
Come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs flow. Hammer of the gods, drive our ships to new land, fight the horns, sing and cry, Valhalla and go. Oh, it's sweet, refreshing your home. Our only goal will be the western shore.
Zeppelin's never in my life. Oh, this is terrible. I told you it's terrible.
Come from the land of the ice and snow, from the midnight sun where the hot springs glow. Soft you feel so green, whisper tales of yore. How we come, times of war. We are your overlord. Always sweet, refreshing your. Our only goal will be the western shore. So now you better stop, rebuild all your ruins. Peace and trust can win the day, despite of all your losing.
Way early there. Wrong note. There's a happy medium here somewhere. Terrible. You can do the horns all you want. This is terrible. All right. No more Zeppelin. No more Zeppelin junking on the bed. Okay, let's see now. What's something that will maybe make up for some of the horrors? Okay. going through some songs in my brain. I feel like I want to do Black Velvet. We're going to do Black Velvet. Little Alana Miles, who I believe was also Canadian. It's one of those songs that, in my mind, I always associated with like singer-songwriter girls playing in bars because they always sing this song. And I am not perfect at it, but it is a good song. This fucking couch. New couch, I'm sliding down. Mississippi in the middle of a dry spell. Jimmy Rogers on the Victrola up high. Mama's dancing with a baby on her shoulder. The sun is setting like molasses in the sky. The boy could sing, knew how to move everything. Always wanted more, he'd leave you longing for. Black velvet in that little boy's smile. Black velvet with that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. My own take on the words makes it better. That's fair. Up in Memphis, the music's like a heat wave. White lightning about to drive you wild. Mama's baby in the heart of every schoolgirl. Love me tender, leaves him crying in the aisle. The way he moved, it was a sin so sweet and true. Always wanted more, hard to leave you longing for. Black velvet in that little boy's smile. Black velvet with that slow southern style. A new religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. Oh shit. The song that he sang was for you. I don't remember the song. In a flash, she was gone. Happened so soon. What could you do? Maybe that was good. I don't know. No, entiendo. Black velvet and that little boy's smile. Black velvet and that slow southern style. New religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. Black velvet and that little boy's smile. Black velvet and that slow southern style. New religion that'll bring you to your knees. Black velvet, if you please. If you please. Oops. If you please. Oh shit, we're still doing. If you please. Si te gusta. And we're at the outro. Kept thinking like 2 more songs. So now's your chance. Get them excited or busted right over here. What does it have? Let's see. Journey, Etta James, REO Speedwagon.
And I can't fight this feeling anymore.
I'm kind of half tempted to do that, but I'm not gonna. Let's see. Anything on there? No. Let's look at Tool. I don't think I've ever done a Tool song. Sober's a good one. Do I know Sober? Probably not. Am I good at singing Sober? Probably not. Am I currently drinking a Lucky Lager while singing Sober? Yes. Oh, this will totally go badly. But it's in the key of D. What could go wrong? D never did nothing to nobody. I do respect the potential for like 7D playing. It's bad. I don't stop.
There's a shadow just behind me, shrouding every step I take, making every promise empty, pointing every finger at me, waiting like a stalking butler who upon the
Oh shit.
murder now the path and must be, just because the sun has come. Jesus spoke.
Oh no, this is not. As much as I love this song, it is not working. Maybe Tool is not the answer. Maybe Tool was a question. And the answer was, nope, not Tool. What Guar? Do they have Sick of You? They do. And I think I've done this before. We'll do some Guar. And then we'll do one more and that'll be it. Sober karaoke is overrated, right?
Your socks, they smell, your feet, they stink, you never take a bath. Business rancid, bust your buns, you always finish last. Sick of you. I'm so sick of you. Sick of you. I'm so sick of you.
Wish you would get the lyrics up quick. The verse parts, I don't know.
Your face is toast, you eat by toast, you don't know what to do. And now he's stuck and that's not sick of you. Sick of you. I'm so sick of you. Sick of you. I'm so sick of you. Down. I said break it down. Thank you. Don't you know, so sick of you, the things you say, the things you do, don't you know, so sick of you, the things you say, the things you do, don't you know that I'm sick of you, the things you say and the things you do. I say, don't you know, I'm sick of you, yeah, the things you say and all the things that you do. Sick.
Shit, I got ahead of myself.
The things you say and all the things you do. But don't you know, I'm so sick of you. The things you say and everything you do. Sick of when I think of you, I'm so sick, so sick of you. sick. Yeah, I'm so sick of you. You're such a sicko. Yes, I'm sick of you. You. Say I'm sick of you. Say I'm sick of you.
This is not how I remember the song.
Sick of you. I'm so sick of you. Sick of you. I'm so sick of you.
I don't think I did that well, so maybe if they have Slaughterama. And they don't. Yeah, they don't. Okay, well then I won't do Slaughterama. And I won't do any more Guar. Last chance. Last chance for a request. Alright. There's no way they have it. No way. Yeah, they have the Men at Work version and they have the actual cover song version, but they don't have the karaoke cover song version. Okay. No leftover crack for you. I want to do something sappy. Gonna do some Scary Pockets cover of Sweet Child of Mine, and then that's the plan that I have. It's my plan, and I love it. This can only go well, maybe.
Got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories where everything was as fresh as a bright blue sky. Now and then when I see her face, she takes me away to that special place. Well, if I stare too long, I'd probably break down and cry. Oh, child of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine. She's got eyes of the bluest skies, and if they thought of the rain, I'd hate to look into those eyes, seeing now some pain. It reminds me of a warm, safe place where as that child I'd hide, pray for the thunder and the rain to quietly pass us by. Oh, sweet child of mine. Hey. Oh, sweet love of mine.
Haven't followed Scary Pockets. You should.
Oh, sweet child of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine. Oh, sweet love of mine. Yeah, sweet child of mine.
that's it. Because I was all, hey, I have time for more requests, and no one made request. So I think that's it. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me on my stream today. It was a pretty decent stream, I'd say. We did some karaoke, and we talked about the Great Reset and how it's not all that perfect, but also a lot of the fears and a lot of the virtues that they extol, probably not real. And then we talked a little bit about relationships and stuff, and I don't know, that felt a little weird. I don't think I nailed that one, but whatever. It was a shot. It was a shot in the dark. Sometimes you gotta take a shot in the dark. You never know. You might just kill the boogeyman. But I feel like that's it for another edition, whatever the fuck this is. Happy New Year's, James Bond.